Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
The other day I was having a conversation with all of my franchisees, well, some of my franchisees who came on, we have a weekly call, who came on the call, and we started talking about social media. We were talking about LinkedIn, we were talking about Lineable, we were talking about Facebook, and there were a few who just kind of, lack of a better term, poo-pooed it. It's like, nothing ever happens on there. It's just, I think they kind of look at it as this, almost like this high-end executive dating site or something. It's just, they really had a very dim view of it. And we're going to have a follow-up conversation on it because I really think they're missing the point. No, I know they're missing the point because I do a lot on all of those platforms, and it's really, it's not about just putting yourself out there and then hoping that little gold coins come your way. It's really about getting out there and talking with people and creating those little connections into one-on-one opportunities, and then maybe a cup of coffee if people are local. And that's where the magic comes from with respect to any of those social media platforms. Today, I have on with me Donna Serdula, and she is the founder and president of Vision Board Media. That's a professional branding company that helps individuals and companies tell their unique stories on LinkedIn. And beyond that, it's more of a branding company, but LinkedIn is one of the platforms that they specialize in. And they're bringing dynamic brand storytelling to the masses and empowering people to dream big. She is also the author of the LinkedIn Profile Optimization for Dummies book, and it's in its second edition right now, so you can go out there and check on that. So Donna, welcome to the program. I will shut up and let you talk.
Frank, thank you so much for having me.
We were talking before we hit record, and you said this is like the 170th some program you've been on. How special I feel. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
This is great. No, it's so, your way around. I guess quickly give us your story. I mean, how did you jump into LinkedIn, and how did you decide, hey, I really need to double down on being a so-called expert on it?
Yeah. When do you remember when you joined LinkedIn? What year?
I do. It was 2008. There's a guy out there named Lewis Howes who lives in Columbus. And
athlete, former athlete.
Yeah, former athlete. He's got a top 10 podcast. Lewis was really down on his luck, and I took him under my wing. He wrote about it in one of his books, and I wasn't on LinkedIn, and he said, you need to get on. I'm like, all right, whatever. And he sat me down and he showed me. And as the story goes, and this is what he shared, I pulled out a checkbook and I wrote him a check for $100. And he says, what are you doing? And I'm like, you just changed my life. You opened up something, because I was getting these LinkedIn invitations thinking, okay, what's this MLM? Right? What's this all about? And he said, no, you're missing the point. And I was, and he totally opened my eyes. So that's when I got on, 2008.
I got on a few years before, 2005.
Okay.
And I remember the gal who introduced me, she said this is something you need to do. Get on it. There's tons of opportunity. You can find a new job. You can find clients, opportunity galore. And of course, I jumped on, and it presented a profile, like an empty profile. I'm like, this looks like a resume. Let me copy and paste my resume in there.
Right.
And, I sort of like, all right, well, when is opportunity going to hit? When is something good happen? Nothing happened. It was just, to me, it was like this big thud. But it was funny how I kept going back to it, and I kept going back to it. And it did take a little while, but I started to see a point to it. And what happened was I was taking my old CRM knowledge, Salesforce automation, the idea of, a book of business. And I started to recognize, wait, I could build my own network here. And this is a network that no one can take away from me. unlike, the company can turn off their database.
Yeah.
I changed jobs at that point a few years later. And now I was in a really cutthroat sales environment, and I was prospecting, heavy cold calling. And I often would, put the person's name that I was going to call into Google, and the only pertinent result was almost always their LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
And I'd look at it hungry to know who this person is. And there was very little whatever was there. It was just this dry, dull, out of date resume. And then one day I realized, wait, how am I showing up?
Yeah. Interesting.
And I was showing up in the exact same way. And that was really where my big epiphany came into, right there, exploded. It was, wait, this isn't a resume. This is a branding engine.
Yeah.
This is where I can control how others perceive me, because as I'm looking at other people's profiles, they're looking at mine.
Yeah.
And they're hungry, just as I'm hungry, to learn who are you and what makes you tick. Yeah. And why should I believe you? And why should I have confidence in you? And why should I like you? And why should I pick up the phone?
Yeah.
So all of that came together for me. And it was in 2009 that I decided I'm going to start my own business. We are going to write LinkedIn profiles, because it's hard to write about yourself. And just as it was hard for me to write mine, I knew that other people needed help. Suffice to say, everyone thought I was absolutely out of my mind insane, because back then LinkedIn was not that well known. And no, the rest is pretty much history. We've worked with 8,000 executives and entrepreneurs, and we've expanded beyond LinkedIn. But we really help people tell their story and see themselves in a new light and present themselves in a manner that gets people interested.
Why do you see networking on LinkedIn as being more important now than ever?
I think.
Let me just preface, because some of these social media platforms, we had talked about before we hit record. I mean, they've come and they've gone. And I think even Facebook, I think, is dying. I really do. I used to put posts on there and get lots of interaction. People don't even look at my posts anymore. Not that I have to have that, but I'm just noting that, maybe people aren't engaging at all.
I agree with you, especially with Facebook. It has changed. It really has changed. I don't see people on there like they used to be. I can't say that it's more important now than ever before. I really can't say that like now is the best time.
Okay.
To me, LinkedIn has proven that they do have staying power. And I think a big part of it is because it is professional. It is career oriented. And there is something about that ability to not have to delve into the utmost personal and vacation pictures. And it's nice to be able to say, hey, I'm doing this for a professional reason.
Yeah.
And, for LinkedIn, there's two ways of looking at it. One, it's how you present yourself. It's that profile, but then it's the activity. And it's the activity of going on and scrolling through your LinkedIn feed and liking and commenting and reposting, as well as taking the time to create content for other people to engage with. That's really the networking piece. And there's still, it's still something that a lot of people struggle with. They're okay with creating a profile. They can get help to create the profile.
Yeah.
But what do you say? How do you engage? How do you network on LinkedIn? And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, but it is a good time to get started.
Yeah. All those years ago when Lewis got me on, I had written a couple books, and he came to me and said, hey, I want to write a book on LinkedIn. I'm like, great. He said, and I want you to co-author it. And I'm like, why me? I'm barely on LinkedIn, but his whole thing is that, you should operate on LinkedIn the same way you do in the real world. And that's so true. Because hey, look at me. You don't walk into a networking event and say, hey, look at me, buy my stuff, so why are we doing it on LinkedIn?
Right. And I think where LinkedIn really started to pick up steam, Frank, I think it was the whole work from home during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I think people missed that water cooler talk. I think they missed that, engaging with other people. And so they were able to, open up LinkedIn and scroll through their feed. And now they're seeing people that they know talking about the things that they care about. And it became a little bit easier. It made more sense when you weren't going into the office every day. What's nice is people have gone back to the office some, but they continue to look at LinkedIn because there is so much value to it. And to me, there's almost that drip feed marketing aspect to LinkedIn.
Right.
And we were talking about this earlier, right? It's being able to consistently show up.
Yeah.
And reinforce who you are and what you do and why you do it and why it matters and how other people can, interact with you. And I think that's a big part of LinkedIn. It isn't that quick sale, but it's that long drawn out process of forging a relationship and getting to know other people and having people get to know you.
Well, you've said a couple things. One, just the whole notion that you're creating a network that follows you. And when you work for ABC Company and you're done with ABC Company, you're really starting over. And now if you're on LinkedIn, and this is getting into more of what you do, but you've branded yourself as being the supply chain expert or the branding expert. When you leave ABC Company, you're still the branding expert, but you've just hired yourself out to somebody else. In fact, I was on a podcast last night, Kuala Lumpur. I don't know if I'm even saying that right. I was being interviewed by a woman who grew up in Scotland. Shout out to Wendy Corner. Grew up in Scotland and moved to Australia and spending some time and just bouncing around. But anyhow, she told me, she said, you know what, through LinkedIn, I think it was it National Women's Day last week, a couple weeks ago? Anyhow, she said, I know 40 women. I know women in 40 countries. That's amazing. Wow. That's totally amazing.
Yeah.
And it's
LinkedIn has a way of bringing people together.
It does.
And it does give you that ability to be seen, tell your story, get found, and forge relationships. But you've got to log in. You've got to log in.
Well, you're right. You have to log in. You have to engage. What are some of the big misses you see with respect to people's profiles? Not the biggest, but just obviously the picture. You need to have a picture.
Well, and as much as I want to go down that path, you're right. I mean, with like it's 2024. Like, why are we still talking about this?
Yeah.
And yet people struggle. They struggle. Where I was actually going to go, though, is when I look at a LinkedIn profile, oftentimes a person will have joined LinkedIn, or maybe they made some sort of a career change, pivot, job change, and they got real excited and they logged into LinkedIn and they updated that profile. Like, they were copying and pasting their resume, their bio. They really, really went all out. And it looked great. And then the years started to pile on. And there were other job changes and other things that have happened. But they didn't have that burst of productivity on their profile. And so now they have like almost like a bare bones profile after that. And I see that all the time. And what happens is they start to think LinkedIn is useless because they're turning up for searches where all of those keywords are, which is earlier in their career. And so they're the job opportunities, even if it's not a job opportunity, but whatever those opportunities are, they're for, a period of time that they're no longer interested in revisiting.
Yeah. No,
and they don't even recognize it's not LinkedIn. It's how you chose to optimize your profile. You optimized it in the past. So I see that as an issue. I also see blank profiles where, yeah, there's the bones. I see where you've been. I see those companies. I see your titles, and there is something interesting about the trajectory, but I'd love a little bit more meat. I'd love some context. I'd love to learn more about you and why you're doing this.
Interesting. I love both of those, and they both make total sense. And it's kind of like in my organization, people don't show up because they're not getting things, and they don't get things because they don't show up. And it becomes this,
yes,
it becomes this
catch
vicious
22.
Yes, it just, spirals. And it's the same sort of thing. It's like, well, nothing's happening on LinkedIn. So why am I devoting any time to it? I'm just going to update. I'm just going to put my new company on there, and that'll be the end of it. Whereas they, almost need to think of it as like a resume. The fact that you were captain of the school safety patrol just doesn't matter now that you're in your 40s, right? We can just take that off there. We can take some of these things off, or just minimize, that you worked at Jimmy John's when you were in college.
But that's also another issue, right? Because no one likes to write about themselves, unless you're a narcissist. Then it's lovely.
Yeah.
But for most people, to sit down and write about yourself, and to do that, really, it's foundational work. Truly, especially for small business owners, you need to know, what is your value? What differentiates you? Why are you doing this? Who is your target audience? What do they need to know? How can you help them? What are their pain points? Very foundational. But we get so consumed with other aspects of the business that we start to forget about these things. And, we don't want that LinkedIn profile to look like a resume, because most small business owners are not looking for a job.
Right.
Right. And so really, it's recognizing that a profile should align to your goal and to your target audience. And so, I see that a lot of times with salespeople, where their profiles talk about how much they love to prospect and how they can close deals and they can ask for money from anybody. But does their target audience want to read that? I mean, that's horrifying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So we really, if you're in sales and you want to sell more, don't talk about those types of things. You want to talk about how you love helping your clients, and how you know their industry and you understand their pain points, and how what you're doing can make a difference. Like that's the better message there.
I never really thought about that. I've seen people who've had profiles like that, and it's like, okay, wow, they're, they've got some chutzpah. I don't have that. But I never thought of it from the perspective of their prospective client is looking at that and saying, oh boy, I don't want to deal with somebody who's got chutzpah, right? I want to deal with that person who understands my pain points, or as a pushover, one of the two.
But it's a misalignment.
It is.
So you really do need, for success on LinkedIn, you have to be very clear. Why are you on it? What are you hoping to achieve? Who is that target audience, and what do they need to know about you? Right? Because again, if you are, a consultant, your target audience is no longer that executive recruiter.
Right.
Right. Your audience now is that company that's looking to bring on a consultant. What are they looking for? The other thing that I see all the time, Frank, is a small business owner that writes their profile as their business. That's what a company page is for. If a person is looking at you,
gotcha.
They don't want to know about your company necessarily. They want to know more about you, because people do business with people.
Yep. I get it.
So that's another one that I find happens quite often.
Now, a lot of what you've talked about here, the profile is somewhat static. I guess two questions, related but unrelated. How often should somebody update their profile? And what are some more ongoing strategies, if you will, for branding yourself?
I think in terms of how often should you update your profile, you should always be updating it in some way, shape, or form. It shouldn't take 6 months for you to go back
Mhm.
and do something. But I know it is easy. It is easy to just sort of get lost in just doing business, and you don't really always think about it. But LinkedIn can be that portfolio, and it is a great place. Featured section now. There's the services section that is now embedded directly into your profile. There are some really great new areas on LinkedIn that, as a small business owner, you really can take advantage of.
Yeah.
But, definitely if you're, I would say at least put a tickler every 3 months.
Okay. That's a great guideline, to be perfectly honest. We're changing our passwords about that often anyway. So some platforms will make you do it. Higher end financial.
LinkedIn doesn't. LinkedIn never prompts me to change my password. It should,
yeah,
but it doesn't.
Well, I'm thinking more of like, financial services, like my bank and that. They're always asking me, and okay, I'm doing this. I should be doing this, sorts of things. So, okay. Other sorts of things we could be doing to better brand ourselves?
No, I think, getting loud on LinkedIn, but also don't get so caught up in this idea that you have to post every day, because there is a lot of noise that says post every day. You have to post every day. That's hard.
Yeah.
That is hard, for small business owners. That's hard for executives. It's hard for professionals.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are, but, to sit down and create a post that's worthy of people looking at and engaging with, that's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
But I think, release that and say to yourself, I can post once a week. I can post once a week, and then commit to that and post once a week. But make sure that one post is something that you're proud of. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece, but it should add some value. It should motivate. It should inspire. It can educate. It does something. It gives something to someone where a person will say, "Wow, that was interesting." And if you can do that once a week, I think you're going to find that good things happen.
I like that. You're basically telling people, because there's a lot of myths out there. Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need during this time frame. It's like, you know what? These are all sort of rules that somebody's come up with, and they've just kind of, they're not even true, some of them.
Post at 7 a.m. on Tuesdays.
Right. Yeah, right.
Unless it's a full moon.
Yeah. But the notion of you need to consistently have content, you're almost better off, like you say, doing more with less, right?
Yeah.
Put one post out there. When there's some engagement, you engage back and just focus on that one post. I like it.
And I'm going to say this: if you can do it once a week, that's great. If you can do it once every 2 weeks, I'm still proud of you. I'm still happy. Even once every 3 months. Well, all right, maybe not once every 3 months. Once every month, right. I'm still happy. And if you can do more than that, God bless you. I mean, absolutely. Don't think that I'm saying don't post every day. Right. But if you have that natural ability, please go right ahead.
Yeah.
But what you can also do, if you're posting once a week or once every 2 weeks, what are you doing the rest of the time? At least scroll through the feed and see who is posting that that you like, that you care about, and help them by liking or commenting or reposting.
I was just going to say that when you repost, that could be your second post of a week, or that could be your post if you're kind of, I have no ideas this week. Go find somebody's and say, hey, this is really neat. Everybody needs to look at it. And then you're building favor with that person. They're like, oh, wow. I can't believe Donna.
Because at one time, and Frank, I know you remember, but there was a time where it didn't make sense to share a person's post, because if you did, it was crickets for you, it was crickets for the other person. It didn't really help. That's changed. Yeah. When you repost your post, that repost that you just did, you're going to see that you're getting views, but that other person that you've reposted, that post is going to do even better.
Yeah.
So it really is a good thing. It's a promotion for them.
Totally. I love it. All right, let's switch gears here if we can. Talk to us about Vision Board Media, types of things you're doing, types of people that others could refer you, programs you've got going on. Donna, pitch away and tell us how we can get a hold of you.
Oh my goodness, you're putting me on the spot, Frank.
No, you can handle it.
Well, so we do help people tell their story on LinkedIn and beyond. So if you're on LinkedIn and you're feeling stagnant, you feel like it's not really helping you, it very well could be that profile. And, to really make sure that you're telling the right story, the best story, that's where we can help you. And if you are on LinkedIn and you're helping other people and you're seeing that maybe they're not getting the traction that they should be, that too is a great lead for us because their profiles probably can use some help, some tender loving care. We also help with anyone who needs branding, really. So, we go beyond just the LinkedIn profile. We help with board resumes. We help with bios, anything that has to do with professional writing. When you need someone who really understands business and who can think at the high level and can take really complex ideas and break them down and make them more accessible to the masses, those are all great types of opportunities for us.
Great. How do we get a hold of you?
You can visit my website, linkedin-makeover.com, or this is kind of weird, but you can go on LinkedIn and find me.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Pull up my profile.
Yeah.
I got open profile, so anyone can message me.
There you go. Donna, appreciate your time here today. It was a lot of fun, and we'll have to do it again.
I would love that.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.